mathematical type questions, but it's interesting because in the war room, probably all across the league, are sheets that have height, weight, speed, shuttle, how much they can bench press, and then they have the last number across the board is the Wonderlic test. Now, you cannot sit there and say that a Wonderlic is going to drop somebody in the draft, but clearly it's a number that they look at. Now, consider just the top 5 picks what their Wonderlic scores were. Keyshawn Johnson scored an 11, Kevin Hardy a 21, Simeon Rice 13, Jonathan Ogden 35, Cedric Jones 19, Lawrence Phillips 23. And it's interesting to note that of these 6, for example, Jonathan Ogden the highest with 35. Most teams like offensive linemen and quarterbacks to score the highest. Sort of the closer you are to the ball, the more intelligent you have to be. Instinctive positions such as cornerback, you can be a little bit lower. But it's very difficult. Teams are really afraid to almost admit that they put that much credence in the Wonderlic. I think if you combine that with some other factors, it may end up dropping a player, especially if they are in a system or going to a system that is very complicated where there's a lot to learn, Mike. One other point that I would like to make is that aside from the Wonderlic, there are many other psychological tests. Mark Malone talked about what the Steelers did. The Giants, for example, have a 480-question test. And one of the things that they want to determine is how violent somebody is, how predisposed to violence they are. The Redskins have a virtual reality type test. And then, of course, the Chiefs are trying something a little bit new. They will be trying to examine what brain types various prospects are. Right now, let's head to Chris Fowler. Chris, what kind of brain type do you think you have?
I don't want to take the virtual reality test, not at this point, not after this many hours of draft coverage, Andrea. Back to the Wonderlic for just a second as Mike Lombardi rejoins us. You know, the kinds of questions on that test, November is the blank month of the year. If you have $1 and gas is 23 cents a gallon, how many gallons can you buy? Mike, those seem like pretty simple questions. How much credence do you really put in that? And is it true that what Andrea said, that you're almost afraid to admit how much credence is put on a Wonderlic test?
Well, I think the way teams do things, and I know this is how we did it in Cleveland, not one set of tests is the total indicator. I mean, what we do is we use the Wonderlic. That's our standard base because people 15 years ago were taking the Wonderlic. So in football, it's always good to compare a player coming out this year to, say, a player who came out 15 years. How did he play in the league? What did he do in the league with the same test score? So that's our baseline. Then you go into different things like the Chiefs are using. Obviously, Washington, the Giants were very good at doing all this stuff. Then you start getting into some different measures and really try to explore the person. But the Wonderlic is one indicator, but it's not the final answer to any problem. That starts you. And like anything in scouting, you have a starting point, you collect data to get to the ending point.
Well, all standardized tests have been attacked in our society as being culturally or racially biased. May or may not be true, but what else do you use if you're not using those kinds of tests?
Well, there's different ways. Sometimes some player has trouble reading the test in certain instances, so you have to do a different test to do that. Obviously, there's a way to do it, and you hire psychologists to come in at Indy. We spend a lot of time on this, and it's important to not try to hurt anybody with the test. You want to try to find the correct answers, not just solve the problem with one answer.
Yeah, you may not put a lot of weight on standardized testing, but when you get a wrong answer back on one of these and what seems like a simple question, it just jars you. I'm not going to tell the name of the quarterback, but in the last couple of years, one of these quarterbacks was filling out a questionnaire for an NFL team, turned to me and asked, how many minutes in a quarter of a football game? That's a quarterback. He's close to the ball, Mike. He's supposed to be scoring high, so it does give you pause when you get an answer like that.
Yeah, and especially when you're making investments like this, you really need to have the most information available, and that's why some of these teams perform these tests. Now, there is a serious side to these, but let's be honest, when you're wondering what month of the year is the 11th month, there's a humorous nature to it. Far be it from me or anyone else to be funny. We have our own resident draft funny man, and joining us now, Nick Bakay, Mr. Funny. Nick, what do you have for us?
First of all, I believe the correct answer is July, Mike. You know, we're deep enough in the draft right now that I'm actually the best player available, the best athlete on the board, which is rather a sad statement. But when you're talking about the first-round picks, owners are investing millions of dollars into these guys. You're putting that kind of money into a player. You really don't want Forrest Gump running that West Coast offense. So you want to test these guys. But for my money, the Wonderlic, a soft, strange test. I got together with some of the top picks before the draft, and I gave them something I call the Wonder Nick. Do you approach game day as A, a test of your manhood, B, a street fight, or C, super freaky magic time?
I'm going to have to go with all of the above.
If you were drafted by the Cowboys, what would be cooler? The opportunity to go and participate in a Super Bowl or to have access to the secret party house?
Super Bowl.
Yeah? If you were drafted by the Cowboys, what would be the cooler part of that deal for you? The fact that you might participate in a Super Bowl or that you might have access to the secret party house?
Secret party house.
Hey! Would you describe yourself as a hungry player or an angry player?
Hungry.
Now, isn't it true that a hungry man is an angry man?
No.
No, I'm going to ask you that when you'll hit me. I like your hat, by the way.
Thanks.
Who would win in a street fight? Superman or Batman?
Superman.
Why?
Because he got the laser thing with his eyes. He can do that.
Yep.
Man of Steel.
What's your sign?
My sign is, I'm a Pisces.
Now, are you worried that you might get drafted by a coach who's a Scorpio? Does that ever cross your mind?
That's difficult. I think about that a lot. You know, preferably I'm looking for Leo.
You know, there have been a lot of stories that the Houston Oilers may relocate. Do you think that they're relocating because they can't get any luxury box profits in their stadium, or because of those monkeys that got loose with the Ebola virus in Texas?
B. I take answer B.
The Ebola virus.
Yeah, that can scare any team off.
Have you ever spent any time living in an 8x12 shack?
When I'm done with you, man.
Needless to say, every player made my Dean's List. One last question. Where can I get one of those nice derby hats? That's definitely the fashion statement of the draft this year.
That was downtown Julie Brown, and that was a couple of years ago, to be honest. Nick, thank you very much. Nick Bakay joining us talking testing and more. Let's bring in Chris Myers now from Cowboy headquarters in Valley Ranch, Texas. Chris?
And, you know, Mike, speaking of the Wonderlic test, we talked to Eric Dickerson, the former NFL running back, and he said when he took the test coming out of college, he didn't take it seriously. He was expected to be a high pick. Of course, he was chosen second overall, but he took the test rather loosely, didn't do well, and the coaches said, hey, you take the test again and treat it seriously this time, and he did. Speaking of Eric Dickerson, he's in town. The draft isn't the only thing going on here in Big D at Austin Ranch on Friday night. It's the Eric Dickerson Tailback Tee-It-Off Classic, where they are roasting Tony Dorsett and raising money for Easter seals, and Eric Dickerson signing autographs. More than 30 running backs in town, including Tony Dorsett, of course, who lives here often and was the target of the roast. And they are playing a charity golf tournament. Franco Harris among those as well, the former Steeler running great. And Seattle's Chris Warren, who was happy that he gets some offensive line help in the draft. There's Bruce Smith. He's got the bib on. Well, we're looking for some running backs to tackle. Of course, Lawrence Taylor, who's not planning a comeback anytime soon. Emmitt Smith also participated in the golf tournament, and he actually indicated, as Jerry Jones told us, that he is talking contract extension with Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, and Jerry Jones has talked to Eugene Parker, Emmitt Smith's new agent. They hope to have a contract resolved shortly. Let's now go back to Mike Tirico in New York.
Parker, the same agent who represents Deion Sanders, and Chris Warren had reason to smile. He has just recently signed a 3-year, $10 million contract with the Seattle Seahawks. The last 6 picks taken in the National Football League draft are listed there, including the start of round 6 by the Jets as they take Hugh Hunter as they continue to try to improve the defensive line. Round 6 of the draft, some good names have come in this round.
See yourself in a whole new way with a job you've only dreamed of. Prepare an F-18 for takeoff. Check out the cockpit of a Seahawk helicopter. Help navigate a nuclear-powered submarine. Are you ready to find out about exciting jobs like these? Call this number now for our free booklet, Today's Navy, and get the facts about over 50,000 jobs in 60 different fields. If you've got the drive and a high school diploma, the Navy can teach you high-tech skills in some of the hottest fields around. State-of-the-art computers, nuclear propulsion, aviation electronics, skills you can build a future on. Go ahead, pick up the phone and ask for our free booklet. You'll find out which jobs are available right now and about great Navy benefits like 30 days vacation with pay, the chance to travel the world, and up to $30,000 for college. Don't wait. Call 1-800-USA-NAVY today for your free Navy booklet. We'll give you the training, the benefits, and most important, the jobs. You and the Navy. Full speed ahead.
My parents never win anything, so I decided to take matters into my own hands and play the Disney Video Masterpiece Collection Trivia Challenge at McDonald's. I can get the job done. I'm a Disney Video expert. With any of these food favorites, you get a Disney trivia game